real-time disclosure. I've proposed that all the expenses associated with AMO and FCM, if you want to have that in a separate account, you decide. I'm one vote, you're 10. But if you're taking it out of one account, post for the reconciliation onto the members' statement, put it up on the website. In fact, I'd say put all our expenses up on the website because it's appropriate. People want to see where their money's going. I have no objection to that. By the way, our expenses are posted quarterly on the website. I think all of yours are, but they might be rolled up so you can't see the detail. I think we want to talk a little bit about trips. There's two. Let's deal with two. FCM and India. Don't want to miss anything. And if I do, I'm sure you'll let me know. In my role as serving on the board of FCM, you would know, because there's been head of council reports, I'm also a member of the big city mayors. We're the 9th largest city. There's 25 big cities. My role on the big city mayors is co-chair of the working group on affordable housing for Canada. I co-chair that with another mayor. I was also authorized by this council or approved by this council as we felt it would be beneficial for this community to pursue 3rd VP, having served 10, 11 years for the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, an extraordinary organization that I believe our participation has obviously put Brampton on the map and was key in our funding for Accelerate, now called Zoom. I was proud to be one of 10 or 11 people to sit with then Prime Minister Paul Martin, selected, because we're on the board and people have exposure to, selected to sit at the table, actually in his home at 24 Sussex, to negotiate the gas tax agreement that all Canadian municipalities are benefiting from, Brampton included. The formula was discussed that day at the Prime Minister's home. So being part of FCM, I think, is added, I know, has been beneficial to the city of Brampton and will continue in our role. But you appoint me to FCM, you also endorse the pursuit of the 3rd VP. Now here we are in a critical time with the government's budget for 2014, FCM advocacy days and several days. Big city mayors are meeting, sometimes in teleconference calls, sometimes face-to-face. Correct, council? I don't convene a meeting and ask, is it okay if I go to the mayor's meeting? I have a budget, I live within it, and off we go when we need to be somewhere. The Atlantic Mayors Congress took place in Halifax. The mayor of Halifax is very keen, he's a new mayor, very keen on affordable housing for his city. So we took the opportunity to go to Halifax, stay a night, get the input of all the mayors in Atlantic Canada, and have the meeting on the, as co-chair of the Housing Working Group, and came back one night. I think that's reasonable. We also took the opportunity to attend the Alberta urban municipalities to do exactly the same thing, and heard their input with their minister and their new premier on the struggles in rural and urban Alberta and the need for affordable housing for workers and skilled workers and accommodation to manage their industry. Very key in preparing this mayor as the co-chair of the big city mayors on this topic when I'm having meetings with the minister responsible for having that in the budget, or indeed Minister Flaherty as the budget guy. So yes, this mayor works tirelessly to go to every opportunity to be fully equipped, to have the best information, to win for Canadians, to win for Ontario, to win for Brampton. We won on the gas tax. We won on the GST. And the last one we won on was the indexing. I didn't win that by myself, but I was part of a team of all of us, all municipalities, that were able to persuade the national government that the Canadian municipalities need more funding. We own 52% of the infrastructure, we get 8 cents on the dollar. So that is why I was in the Atlantic Mayors Congress and the Alberta Congress. And you know, with FCM, there are 4 meetings a year. There's the annual board meeting in early June, end of May. That's for the full AGM. And then there are 3 meetings. The September meeting moves around the country. We can't host it. We don't have a hotel convention center. There's the Ottawa Advocacy Days, which are in Ottawa every year. There's the March board meeting. The location of these meetings is on their website, usually going out 5 years because people need to make their plans. I do attend, as your representative, all board meetings that are scheduled. For Ontario, for 7 or 10 years, I was also elected chair of the Ontario caucus. As chair of the Ontario caucus, preparing the agenda, preparing the meetings, and taking minutes, one of my staff that you approved in a motion at this council, I brought it here and said, to properly support the mayor at FCM, we recommend the following staff accompany the mayor, so we're covering all the standing committees, and that we have a staff person accompanying us for the purpose of the Ontario caucus meetings. Council approved that. Those staff don't always go. They sometimes go depending on the schedule within the budget approved by this council. I think that's very important to note too. Let's talk about international travel. International travel is approved by this council. The budget resides in economic development. This council decides for a term where we're going to grow and expose the city of Brampton. As mayor, that's part of my job, to go and deliver those remarks and invite business to Brampton, invite delegations to Brampton. I met with an India delegation yesterday. Delegation was in my boardroom today from China, both of whom we met in the last 12 months. This council approves that budget. Then a second report comes specific to the trip with a specific budget that identifies who is going, and it's within the policy. The policy says that the mayor, the chair of economic development, and if there's a member of council with a relationship to the country to which you're visiting, then you would have 3 elected people. So for example, when we went to Italy, Councillor Sprovieri came because he speaks Italian. When we went to India, Councillor Dillon accompanied us. We're very grateful because, of course, he speaks so many languages which are spoken in India. Council deploys the mayor to these places, and I do my job that you deploy me to. I don't pick, oh, I'll go to China. I think I'll go to India. You send me to these places, and I go and make every moment count. Those of you who've been with me on these trade missions know the grueling amount, the schedule that we follow. The council policy does allow for first class, business class, when you travel on business more than 5 hours. I don't pay for business class tickets to sit up front in an airplane traveling in North America, okay? But traveling to China and India, and our schedule had our first meeting starting at the airport, yes. I chose to travel business class to have the optimum use of the time that we're there. As the spokesperson for the municipality, I didn't say I better go 2 days early with a couple extra nights in a hotel so we can rest up to put our best face forward. No, I chose, that was my decision. It's outside of the parameters of the trip budget, so it's transparently shown within my budget that I didn't exceed. So I suppose the question is, maybe the mayor needs a separate discretionary budget and you can all have at it what you think is appropriate. I know Councillor Sprovieri came to India outside of the council approved policy, and Councillor, I don't want you to miss my comments and people will, Councillor Sprovieri, oh, okay. Councillor Sprovieri also joined us in India because he has a large constituency, and actually I asked him, I said, Councillor, this would be a good opportunity for you to come to India and be part of this delegation. And he said, thank you for the invitation, and because it's outside of the policy, his costs are in his discretionary budget. That's why they're there. So I want to be very clear, there's nothing mysterious here, and that's why I've taken the time to answer phone calls and emails. But what's very important for me to be clear, every expense, every donation comes out of the money you have assigned to the office of the mayor, including the vehicle on one line item, it's not even confusing, and the contract driving service, which is not full-time because the mayor of Brampton drives herself. I'm going to say that 3 times because I've always wanted to say it 3 times. The mayor of Brampton drives herself. The mayor of Brampton drives herself. We also have a contract service available that we use, and it has been evaluated that that's the best cost service for that purpose, for safety reasons, for scheduling reasons. So you now have the answers. If that has proposed some additional questions, I welcome them. If you would like to continue this discussion in a forum where the public has all of our expenses, I think that would be appropriate too. I mean, people are interested in what members of council, I don't have, you didn't allow the mayor or the office of the mayor, nor have we asked for a discretionary budget that's $15,000 a year and you're about $45,000 in. I have confirmed with the clerk that once you approve the council code of conduct, there is no further sign-off by any member of staff. You have the judgment and decision on the choices you make. Staff used to sign off. I think we could add that back. I'd propose that there should be some checks and balances because I do not agree that the expense account was ever intended to have dinner with your friends or go to a Brampton Beast hockey game. For the record, I have 4 seasons tickets. I bought them myself. I want to reiterate, I don't golf. This money isn't Susan's money to spend on Susan. It's to spend on the community. Why is it a little bit bigger? So I'm trying to keep track of all of the comments. You will know as you pass your sheet around the chamber, Councillor Gibson, I'll use you for an example. You all sign to donate, maybe it's $100 to Big Brothers Big Sisters. And then you say, Mayor, will you match that? And every year we have until last year, because you don't give me 10 times, which would be 150,000. I don't get 10 times. In fact, we have 60 for community promotion, advertising, and all of the things that we have to fit in. So we have to make choices to make sure they all fit in. When I go to the Filipino harvest breakfast, I get cash out of myself and pay for it because you know why? I'm sitting at the table eating food. It's a heck of a fundraiser. It's an important fundraiser. So I say, if you want to remove, because some people have commented that that's buying votes or that's pandering, I don't believe that. I believe it's part of the role of elected officials to attend and be seen and demonstrate that support for the city. But take all that money and put it somewhere else. Please, don't cut off the very groups who need our help. If you want to reduce it, and I think you can, because I don't know if I did a little homework. I brought a little chart, and maybe I didn't bring it down. Maybe I didn't bring it down. I didn't bring it down. Anyway, it's very handy. It shows of the 189 events who supported what. And you know what? We all pretty well supported the exact same events. The exact same events. So if it's right for you, it must be right for me. If it's right for you, it must be right for you. Or is it wrong completely? But perhaps. It shouldn't be according to the group that knows to contact every councillor and the mayor. And that's why I would invite a process where they go through economic development, perhaps the Office of the Citizen Engagement, so that some groups who may not have known they could ask a member of council I am not related to people that have received money, funds, sponsorship, donorship from the office of the mayor. My family's not on the boards, my children aren't involved, there's no relationship. It's a simple request to the office of the mayor for a worthwhile cause, or no, non-worthwhile causes. And then if my staff makes the decision, I mean, I had to look up when I was being asked by the media, what's this for? I said, well, I'll have to check because I don't authorize or do that. My chief of staff does that. So there's been one interesting one. La Vie en Rose. I had to ask what it was. It was a concert, I think it was a concert dinner by the New Rose Orchestra earlier this year, last year. I don't know, because the department said that fits within approved policies. That group will sponsor a table. And you say, here, invite your volunteers, your helpers, your board, your museum, whoever. I didn't go. I don't know who was there. But many members of council are using the money for yourself or your spouse. I don't think that's right. I think we need to have, I can tell you, we need to have some rules about that. We need some clear rules. People out there on a fixed income would be appalled at the eye-popping expenses that have been charged to some members of council's account. I'm not going to get into all of that. There's no purpose about that. I ask that they all be put up there and let your voters decide if they thought it was appropriate or call you directly. That's the proper way to do things. So I hope I've answered all your questions. If you have some more questions, one final note. It was said by Councillor Sprovieri that the mayor took it on. That was the subject of the regional representation. I want to correct the councillor. This council approved the formation of a task force chaired by Councillor Gibson, which several members of council sat on. I never took it on. I abided by the work that was done by the chief and the people who served on that. And when there was action asked of the mayor, action was taken. Additionally, we had other advocacy, and we know that that is an issue not yet concluded. So I think I've covered all. Can I just ask, by a show of hands, is there somebody who wants to ask something about what I just said, or do you have a new question so that people who are watching can sort of follow?
Madam Mayor, we did agree we would adjourn at 5 o'clock. Councillor Hames and I have a public neighborhood meeting to attend at the region of Peel on flooding. The expectation by that neighborhood is that we will be there, and we've been here since early this morning. We need to adjourn this meeting as when we agreed we would wrap it up at 5 o'clock, and it's now 20 after 5.
Okay, perhaps we can keep going to get the bylaws and that done even if you're not here. Does that sound fair? Okay. Yeah, we do. We've got them all here. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'll make this brief, respecting my colleagues' commitment of time. Actually, you're going to a meeting on flooding, and we're the ones that have all the conversation about flooding in downtown Brampton. I don't mean that as criticism. I'm just saying how ironic it is that a lot of development gets held up downtown by the conservation authorities. Anyways, just a comment aside. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Madam Mayor, that we need to roll all of our expenses if we're going to publicly disclose it on the website. It's one of the reasons why I've asked for my regional one to be put there, because it shows my AMO and FCM, which if you paid for it from the city, it wouldn't be reflected in there. I agree with it wholeheartedly. We need to be fully transparent in terms of how much we are costing the taxpayers, and if that includes rolling in our the value of the newsletters and whatnot, I think that's important, because we've at least had Mr. Startup say that communication is important. We need to be able to say how much we're spending to communicate with our residents. So moving that back into our discretionary, however it's going to be reported, I think is vitally important. With respect to the community groups, there's no question that many of us, in fact, all of us, buy tickets to attend various fundraising dinners. But I will also
I don't.
say, well, I do. I do pay for it out of my discretionary here, but I will also say that without exception, I have never seen a member of this council leave one of those fundraising dinners without spending their own cash at the silent auction and whatnot. And I will, my husband and I just doing a rough count, it's thousands. We buy more stuff that we don't need so that we can redonate it somewhere because we feel obligated, and rightly so, to spend our own cash at these events and support, if we're gonna buy the ticket to go to the event, we obviously believe in their cause, and we do that. And I just wanna make one comment with respect to the fixed income piece. And there is no question that this council has always been very respectful of the fact, and mindful of the fact that we have a lot of folks in our community on fixed incomes. They are seniors. And we do a lot of conversation through the budget process talking about our seniors and the many people in our community who are either unemployed or underemployed, and how important it is to be sensitive to them. But I will tell you, I got an email today, which was kind of a reminder to us, and the one, I'll just read for you one line in it. And it says, talking about how hard people are working to support the efforts of the city. And the next sentence is, young children are left in daycares as early as 6:30 in the morning and picked up 12 hours later so that parents can pay their mortgages and taxes. The parents come home tired, distracted, and worried, and how has your use of taxpayers lightened their load? We have an average income, or an average age in this city, very low compared to other municipalities, 34.7 years, I think it is. That in and of itself tells us how many young people are in our city, many first-time home buyers, many starting their families. And when we are talking about taxpayers' dollars and how we are spending that money, we need to assure those young parents who are stressed financially that we are doing everything possible here to spend and invest their money wisely. It is a double-edged sword. These are the same folks that are looking for the kind of infrastructure, civic infrastructure with respect to recreation centers and libraries and things like that. And so we have to, balance their ability to pay with with their desire and expectations around the kinds of programs and services that they can access here at the city. Thank you.
Oh, you guys have to go, that's fine. Councillor Sprogieri?
Yeah, just to clarify, I made the comment about the council issue because on February 13th, 2012, I came here with a motion that I had negotiated with some members of regional council from Mississauga that they'd be willing to support us getting one additional councillor at the region. And when I brought that motion here, and I tabled it, when you suggested that we need to have all our members going to the region,
right.
and that you would take this on and go to the minister and to the premier and make sure that the Justice Adams report would be fulfilled. And I said, fine, I'll table my motion and let's see what you can do. And of course, that's why I made that comment.
Okay.
On the other issue about your willingness to look at the budgets, I'm very happy to hear that you are willing to do that. Perhaps I will be looking at my budget, and I will be suggesting when we meet where I can cut some of what I've been spending, and I hope you'll do the same. I hope you will look at your budget and say, well, guys, I think I can cut this and cut there and cut some other stuff. So I hope that everyone is because our whole objective here is to streamline, be efficient, and be more responsible with our spending, and I'm willing to do that, and I will make some suggestions when we meet here, when we deal with this matter. So thanks very much, and
Thank you, John. I did miss one comment. You were asking about the additional staff person that you authorized in the budget of 2011. That's the same position that you've just added and are now advertising in your department, raising the staff in the council office. Well, the ad is up on the wall. You've approved it, so I just want to be clear. So I just want to go through all these motions, but council, I just have to say, and that's the end of what I will say, I'll wait till the next opportunity, that I received a package today. It's very large. I haven't had a chance to read it, but I think it's of great concern that we're talking about the use of taxpayers' funds and how they're used, and that a member of the media, 2 members of the media, were using taxpayers' money to be in a Region Appeal golf tournament while they were criticizing, I think they were your guests, Councillor Sanderson and Moore, and that there was I guess it's the Peel Paramedic Golf Tournament. So that wouldn't show on this side, but you bought a foursome that you golfed in, so we're paid for your golf. And Councillor Sanderson's and your guests are 2 media people. That'd be Rick Drennan and San Graywall. How ironic that they would accept a complimentary taxpayer-paid golf day while they write stories about. Well, it actually, according to this, well, there's been quite a rambling of story back and forth, but we won't get into all that now. We can certainly all read the list, but the golf tournament was in September when this came to light. We then witnessed some retraction, and I didn't know, and they've paid it back, and oh no, Paul, you have to go. So this is, I say that because that's the information I'm given or shown, and there's an email trail. So I'm told that the reporter gave the money to the councillor, but somehow it never got back to the region because that was an oversight too. I don't know, but you see how stories start. I don't even know who this is. We've got this big package. It goes on, and I'm not reading it all. But you've said, I heard that the mayor does this or does that. Please, I said this last week. If you have a question, I respond 24/7. Residents know they get emails at 4 a.m. There's no reason to use your proxy, the media, for me to know you have a puzzle on your mind. Why you don't just ask the question is beyond me. I think we'd all be better off, I said this last week, if people had an open, respectful, courtesy asking of the questions. So, Councillor Moore, you wanted to speak, and Councillor Sanderson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'm glad you raised that because, it's important to get the facts out in front of the public. First of all, I guess I don't really see a great deal of difference in golfing with some reporters from having the publisher of the local newspaper, Mr. Nugent, be your guest at the gala or the golf tournament. In fact, I think he was at every gala and every golf tournament. And whether he was your guest or
Not taxpayers' money, Councillor.
Oh, and hold on. Even if he paid his own way, he was still in your presence and still had your ear. I am going to support Councillor Sanderson's motion for a forensic audit because I think that's the only thing that's going to satisfy you and perhaps the press if they choose to print this, that in actual fact there was no taxpayers' dollars that went to take 2 members of the press. The media was provided with documentation that indicated very clearly that Councillor Sanderson and I ordered 1 ticket and 1 whole sponsor for the Peel Paramedic Golf Tournament. The media also have a scanned and signed copy of our expense summary where we very clearly signed off and approved $240, that being $140 for the golf, 1 round, and the whole sponsor. So the media have been provided with the documentation, authentic, that there was no taxpayers' dollars that went to that. And just to further to that, I've received from the region today my expense summary. Anybody's welcome to look at it, effective October the 31st, that shows $240 being assigned to the Peel Paramedic Golf Tournament. So there is no truth to the belief that taxpayers' dollars paid for any members of the press to golf with Councillor Sanderson and myself. So I think that that rumor needs to be put to rest right now. It is factually incorrect, and there is absolutely no documentation whatsoever to suggest otherwise.
Well, certainly the public has been asking me, where does certain reporters get all this information to spew this, words over the city of Brampton, and I think the picture now makes that very clear. So, thank you for that. Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and well said, Councillor Moore. It was an enjoyable day, and they did pay their own, they did pay their own way. It was not taxpayers' dollar. And I can tell you that there was a story done that particular day on the flooding in the downtown Brampton. So it was actually a working day.
At the Peel Paramedic Golf Tournament.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just want to say about the former publisher of the Brampton Guardian, I actually golfed with him one time in your golf tournament, so with Ken Nugent. And I can assure you, he did not pay to golf that day.
Actually.
So anyways, I'm not gonna argue with you on
know what
that.
they paid.
But anyway, while you were talking and getting ready for your last delivery there, city manager came over to me and asked me to change from forensic to compliance. And I didn't speak to my seconder here, and him and I have talked, and we want to leave it at forensic.
So. Pretty expensive. Sure, in a time of cost cutting, let's not work with the city manager.
Well, I'm sorry, but after what you just pulled there, that's why I'm doing that.
Just pulled.
Yep.
Council, I haven't even pulled your expenses.
They're open. It's on the web.
I don't know that they're all on the web. Could I confirm, are all the expenses on the web, including the car allowances for councillors, the associations with AMO, FCM? Is that on the web? I think it should be, because people are speaking to it as if it's there. Maybe we could ask that through whoever looks after the web, that can be there. Okay? Pardon me? What do you want to do at budget? Okay.
The mayor and members of council budget is that budget. Those dates are now set.
What, do you want to refer all these motions to budget, or want to do this today? You tell me, I've got 3 or 4. Okay, council, the first, are you ready for motions?
Budget dates now, they've changed.
You have them changed, I think that was in the, okay. From Councillor Sprovieri and Councillor Dillon, the city clerk organized an evening public meeting to review the mayor's, I think we've dealt with that, have we? Okay, in order to find efficiencies in the 24. Yes, but I think we just added those. So do you want to make that specific to December 6th, for example, so the public doesn't have to sit for 4 days to know which day this subject is on?
Madam Mayor, as budget chair, we set the meeting dates and we're having a final evening meeting. If you want to talk about 213's budgets, I told you, you have your meeting some other night. That's not part of the 2014 budget. Well, I'm fine, you want to do that, then move a motion that you have a special night meeting to deal with 2013.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just to be clear, as the motion that's moved by Councillor Sprovieri is asking the clerk to organize a public meeting. Just to clarify, are you saying a public meeting of the Budget Committee?
An evening public meeting to
On 2013 or 14?
2013.
Well, that's fine, then that'll
I
just
thought
be
we just did that.
well, that's what you want to have.
2000, to review our, where, and ask the public where we can
Yeah,
cut.
but we don't
I want to
have
get public
specifics of
opinion
2013
on where we should be cutting. That's the
For
purpose of this
2014?
meeting. Well,
So, okay, council, for clarification, there's a resolution for, well, everybody's trying to, John, we started with this on the agenda today, we've already changed because you moved that we do the 2014 budget. That's how it went on the agenda. Since you spoke now, you've moved that to a different meeting. We've changed the budget dates, we've lost the budget chair.
Yeah.
We have a new budget
yeah,
chair.
well, read the motion, Madam Mayor.
It says that staff not hold an informal meeting at 3 o'clock. Oh, this is a different, well, I'll get this one done. and that discussion regarding mayor and council's budget be discussed in open council. So, do you still need to move this? Does this have any
No,
relevance?
we did that, so now we've already done that.
Okay, I guess that's done. Let me sign that so you can put it wherever it belongs. Where's the other motion? Oh, here, sorry, it's not blue. The next motion is that the city clerk organize an evening public meeting to review the mayor's and members of council 2013 budget, or do you mean expenses? I mean, it's kind of historical.
Expenses, yeah, budget expenses, yeah.
Oh, Chief Simmons?
Madam Mayor, thank you, and perhaps I can help with this, since corporate services staff will be organizing this meeting, and I also need to just clarify what Councillor Sprovieri had said, that this public meeting that is being contemplated, and also deferring to Councillor Paleshi's comments earlier, your reference to where the public might want to cut is not something that we can organize in the context of a 2013 expense review, which is what you were suggesting. And Councillor Paleschi is absolutely right. We do have meetings set up for the review of the 2014 budget, but if your public meeting is for 2013 and the review of those expenses, there's really no opportunity there to be talking about expense cutting, because for all intents and purposes, the bulk of those expenditures have already been well expended. So I want to be clear to set up the meeting, what it is we're going to be communicating to the public.
To the chair. Now the public knows what we have spent in 2013, right? It's all here. So I want this to go to the public and say, public, what do you think is necessary and what do you think is not necessary for councillors to spend this money on? And I want to hear from the public to say, well, I think that, you shouldn't be giving money to seniors. Then when we go to the budget for 2014, then we have something to go by on where we can adjust what we've been doing.
And through you, Madam Mayor, then I'd ask for some assistance from the clerk, because
Right.
that's two different discussions. One is an expense review, the other is you're asking for public input on the 2014 budget.
No, not-
Which really,
no.
well, I'm sorry, Counselor,
No,
that's
we're
exactly
not.
what you said. You
We're,
just
we're,
said,
we're asking the public on what they think we have done wrong in 2013. Okay? We want them to tell us where we spent wrong, so we, well, it's not all here.
but,
I mean,
and Counselor, through you, Madam Mayor, and that would be fine if council is interested in what the public has to say with respect to the 2013 expenditures.
Right.
But if you're then asking the public to comment on the 2014 budget,
No,
that's a completely different
no,
meeting,
then
and
we
that's the budget
decide
meetings.
that. We decide that later through our process on where we should be cutting us and the mayor's budget, based on what the public has said about what we spent in 2013. Understand?
Well, Counselor, through you, Madam Mayor, I do understand.
Okay.
And that's exactly why I want to clearly
Thank
define
you.
the scope of the meeting that you're referring to, and the 2014 budget deliberation process, at which the budgets for council, mayor's office, and all the departments is then discussed.
Right.
Okay, Councillor Gibson and Councillor Callahan. This is with respect to having an evening meeting between now and the evening meeting of December 11, when you do the full budget, so between now and then.
2013 expense.
Oh, sorry, that has nothing to do with the 2014.
Nothing to do with 2014.
Okay, can I,
Councillor Gibson, you have the floor.
I think Councillor Sprovieri, I understand where you're trying to go with this. I think we need, as council members, I think we all have said today, those who have spoken have said today, we need to look at our expenses, our mayors and members of council's expenses. I haven't heard anybody say don't. I think there's a clear indication we need to do that. I think we need the opportunity ourselves first to look at that, to make some good decisions on it. And we could do that at budget, we could do that along, and all we have to do is say to staff, usually what we get is line items that say, here's mayors and members of council, here's 2014. Am I correct? That's normally what we get. So you're kind of comparing,
Yes.
right? Let's just ask staff to bring the details that we've all got today in front of us to that meeting, and And then we can we can do it, it's all available, the public already know it. We can have our discussions, we can make our cuts in conjunction with what we're going forward with. And then at the end, Councilor Fletcher, you had all those dates, I can't remember when it is. At the end, we're having a public meeting anyway, right? And that's the opportunity at a nighttime meeting to have the public come and tell us, okay? Rather than have the special meetings. I'm not in favor of having a free-for-all on 2013 of what's already been spent. Let's show some leadership here, that's all I'm saying, and we'll make those cuts and then go to the public during. I finally convinced, it took me 22 years to convince him of something.
Sorry, Councillor Callahan, were you speaking to that motion or the next motion? Okay, so you're gone. So the next motion, I think this is the final motion, and then we still have bylaws and some things to complete the meeting. It's moved by Councillor Sanderson and Councillor Sprovieri that staff be directed to undertake a third-party forensic audit of all council expenses, and that the terms of reference of which should be developed by the internal auditor in cooperation with the CAO for a report back in January 2014. CAO Corbett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes.
I think it said that.
Just to be clear on my instructions, what I will intend to do is to develop those terms of reference and come back with an estimated cost prior to embarking on the project. Okay? Okay, thank you.
And just a question, when we're putting out the terms of reference, we'll also be able to capture the use of corporate resources, because those policies need to be examined as well. What is shown in discretionary account does not include the use of corporate resources. For example, when there's a Canada Day celebration at Ward 9 and 10, and the homeowner says, I need trees and tables and things to plant, that's the use of corporate resources, some would say for vote buying, but it is an expense by the public, requested by a councillor, and it occurs. I would like all that captured, because that's a true evaluation. When a councillor has a street party and they move lots of things from corporate resources, there's a cost to that, and that needs to somehow be captured if you're looking for policies that will preclude that movement of corporate resources, because there's a cost to that, and it's presently hidden. When the corporation is asked to move corporate resources onto the personal property of a member of council, will this forensic audit capture all of those emails and discussions when goods are placed where there's no insurance and the city's at risk? Would there be a cost assigned to that, how that happened, and put the process in place to ensure it never happens again? Because I think all of these behaviors need to be reviewed, if that's what you want to do through a forensic audit. Could I be clear? Is that what you'd bring back in the terms of reference?
You will be clear on the scope of the audit process.
Okay, then. Council, are you ready to vote? Oh, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 people? So 5 carries. Are you ready? I'm happy to. That staff be directed to undertake a third-party forensic audit of all council expenses, and that the terms of reference of which should be developed by the internal auditor in cooperation with the CAO for a report back in January 2014.
That's not in the resolution, but I made it clear with council, so I'm clear on my instructions. And I think I got concurrence
Want me to add that?
that I will come back with a report first that says, here's the terms of reference and here's the cost before we embark. Okay?
Okay, council, are you ready? Everybody. Are you ready? Okay, all those in favor? Good, that's carried. I'll make a little. None opposed. Okay, now. Oh, public question period. If there's any member of the public here who wants to come forward and ask a question about today's discussion topics or any matter, this is the time to come forward, state your name, and ask your question. We'll endeavor to answer it here, or if we are unable, we will seek to get you an answer. Mr. Johnston.
Good
Hold the
afternoon.
railing, George.
My name is Brian Johnson. I live at 50 Elizabeth Street North, and I'm a resident here in the city of Brampton that normally, under normal circumstances, would stand here and be proud of what has taken place. But I'm going to tell you, I'm embarrassed. First and foremost, I want to, and it's unfortunate because of the timing, but I wanted to pay some gratitude to Councillor Miles for all the fine work that she'd done as budget chair in the last few years, and it's very disappointing to see that because of what's taken on here at this time, which was all caused by the accurate reporting of the Brampton Guardian, I might add.
Oh, I think it was the Toronto Star.
Well, I think that they had a little help. That we've lost a budget chair that done a wonderful job, and I'm sorry about that. Now, my question that I'm going to bring forward is going to be directed, if I could, to Chief Ball. On today's budget item, I believe it's I-41. Was that the one that dealt with the amendment to the bylaw?
That would be probably in consent, just
Well, it was in consent.
Okay.
It went to consent.
I-41 is the report. I don't think that's the one you mean. That's a registered plan that Steeles and Mississauga Road.
My apologies. It's the one regarding,
Oh, I-41? Oh, it's the actual item in the agenda. Sorry, I was looking at the minutes.
The item is I-41, proposed
Yeah, it's
exemption
the
to the
interim
interim control bylaw.
control bylaw. I want to make council aware of the fact that this particular amendment was the 21st one brought before this council since that interim control bylaw went into effect on March the 1st. And it includes 22 homes, 2 of which have exceeded the 15% that was put on by council. One for sure was in excess of 100% that was approved through this council. And every time an amendment is applied for, there's a great cost involved that the citizens of the city of Brampton have to bear. So I know that next week you're coming forward to talk about that bylaw, but I wanted to ask Chief Ball whether or not at that time she would bring forward, because the budget is coming up and it's something I've already made a request of, but I still haven't got information as yet, the exact costs that are involved since that interim control bylaw went into effect, so that the taxpayers will know. And then I would like to ask you as council to please concentrate and look at this overall cost factor, so that on February the 28th of 2014, where you have the opportunity to pick up the option on that bylaw, that at that time you make the decision not to have it continue. If it's not there, these exemptions don't have to be applied for, and I think that you're going to help in the long run if you make it part of policy and procedure rather than a bylaw as to the way that you're going to,
Exemptions, so is there a better way?
you know,
Who
so
can
I'd
answer
like
that
you to look
question?
at that if I could.
Let me just see if we can get a
through you,
short
Madam-
answer, there might be a longer
Yeah,
one.
through you, Madam Mayor, I'll refer this to Dan Krasusti to respond on the process we're going through with respect to the costs associated. On the matter of another process to use, yes, there are other options that council could consider, and we can bring a report forward on that matter.
Okay?
Thank you
Does
very
that
much.
sound fair?
Yes, I just think it's an important factor and it needed to be asked, so I want to thank you for your time.
Councillor Callahan, this is public question period. We don't speak at this point, Councillor, please. Ask him after. It doesn't have to be asked as part of the council agenda. There's another person waiting to come up in public question period. It's not council question period. Mr. Startup, you're next. And Brian, I think Bob Callahan wants to have a chat.
Thank you very much. I thought, good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Council, staff and members of the public that are left. I thought if you give me 5 more minutes, I could have said good evening instead of good afternoon. But anyway, my question, last week at Committee of Council, I asked for, or I was offered, a budget binder, which I was, but according to my understanding, was supposed to be,
The budget binders are not yet prepared,
I found
so
out.
you have not been overlooked.
I'm
But
sorry.
with the changing dates
I was just
and
going to continue,
changing
Madam
scenes,
Mayor, yeah. Just give me my, much, have I only got 5 minutes left, or is that,
Pardon?
add this 5 minutes onto my 15?
No, I don't think it was, okay. Here-
Okay. No, I found out on Tuesday that the binders are delayed. And when I heard that, it's me, well, if they're delayed until next week, how can you give council, the public, time to review these things, prepare questions, and have your meeting, budget meeting on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th? But anyway, I did hear
now the dates have
today,
been moved
I
to
found
the
that out
6th,
today,
9,
the
and
6th,
10, so
and
it
that's
all
probably
works
the
in.
reason why.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is that
Give
your
me time.
question?
Yes. The other question I have, and I'm sure City Hall is like any other business. You have policies and rules on expenditures and
Absolutely.
how you fill it. I'm sure there's no difference. And it has to get approved. Who approves your expense sheets? And I know you don't prepare them yourself. You probably give the receipts to your secretaries and she has them, totals them up and it goes to another.
Who answers that?
But who actually approves them?
For you, Madam Mayor, the members do themselves, short answer, because when we adopted the Code of Conduct for Council and appointed an Integrity Commissioner, a new process was implied, which meant there was accountability to each councillor for their expenses, but they have to abide by the Code of Conduct, make that judgment for themselves, whether or not, and if there is a concern about an issue around that, there is recourse to get a complaint to the Integrity
The
Commissioner.
way I put it, Mr. Corbett, is it's all kind of an honour system in accordance with their code of ethics and the oath that they take at the inaugural and all that good stuff. So it's not approved as it would be in any other
It's a
business.
discretionary account.
Okay, I just wanted to understand how it worked.
Mine's approved. I should say
The,
mine's approved.
The reason, well, I guess one of the reasons why I had asked for the binder, just so as everybody understands, but there was two amounts mentioned on the binder, a $900,000 amount and a $300,000 amount. But these were distributed among different groups, grants to this guy and that guy. And I had wanted to know who these groups were and how much they got. And I hope whenever council gets their binders, that they take a close look at these things, because I believe, personally I believe, that there may be conflicts of interest in there.
Well, that's, you'll be able to analyze that
Of
because
course,
I've
and
asked that
I'm
all of
just
these
suggesting that they look
be
at them.
posted on the city website, and then you would be able to ask a member what you would perceive to be a conflict of interest. I can only say for myself that the groups receiving money as requested to the office of the mayor, we have no relationship to me, my family, or anybody associated with the board or the organization that I'm aware of. I should say, in case there's
I
some
did
issues
like
this.
Madam Mayor, I did like your speech this afternoon there, and I totally concur with the majority of what you said. And it boils down to, no matter what expenditures take place in Brampton, out of the taxpayer's pocket, it's council that approves them all. They approve your trade mission trip. They approve your trips to wherever. If you need plaques somewhere, that's approved. The logos, the brand names, they're approved. And these are the amounts that the public look at. You know, the $100,000, the $250,000 here. That's what they're looking at. And the Integrity Commissioner, that's another issue. And that's where the savings are going to be. I think I mentioned last week, look after the pennies and the dollars look after themselves.
Agreed.
But anyway, I look forward to getting my binder. When will that be? Next week?
Mr. Startup's looking for the budget binder, but they're not completed yet.
Oh, I know.
Probably they're only waiting for council to land on
Okay,
what
I'll-
our
I'll let-
budgets
I'll
are
let
gonna
council
be.
go home and
We're
approve it
holding
then.
up a $1 billion budget to
Thank
talk
you.
about 0.6%, but every penny's important.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Council, I do believe we're at the end of question period. Those were good questions. Pardon me? Bylaws, Mr. Hutton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's moved
Yes, we
by,
have to move in camera.
moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Hames that bylaws 301-2013 to 330-2013 before council at its meeting of November 30th, 2013 be given the required number of readings taken by the mayor, the city clerk, and the corporate seal affixed thereto.
All those in favor of the bylaws? 1, 2, 3, hands up. Very good, council. I now have a motion to move in camera. Can we, did you want a picture? Should we stand still, smile, or meet you on the course? Council, the motion to move in camera is T1 minutes of closed session and T2 labor relations. All those in favor of moving in camera at this time? Thank you. Well, I hope we have a quorum. That's, well, you have to keep going. Council, just before we move in camera, as customary, we announce the dates of the next meetings. Let me try to do that because it has changed. What's in your agenda is Wednesday, December 11 at 1 p.m. That means now it is Wednesday, December 11 at, I think we suggested 6 p.m. And then, of course, Wednesday, January 29 at 1 p.m. The budget budget committee meetings have moved from 2, 3, and 4 of December during the day to 6, 9, and 10. All those meetings are held here in the chamber. They're held here in the chamber, right? Here in the chamber, open to the public. And they start at 9:30. And budget briefing books, I hope, are out well before then for Mr. Startup and members of council. Council, we now have a motion to move in camera. All those in favor? Thank you. No, I don't.